Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. It's SROMA Stories. Today, the subject and the review is late but worth the wait. My name is Emily, and for years I believed that love was simply about finding the right person. I didn't know that sometimes you could meet the right person at the wrong time. I met Michael when I was 26 years. We worked in the same company, but we barely spoke at first. He was quiet, hardworking, and surprisingly thoughtful. He wasn't the kind of man who tried to impress everyone. Instead, he paid attention to the little things. One afternoon, I was struggling with a heavy box of documents. "Let me help you," he said. "I can handle it." "I know, but you don't have to handle everything alone." That sentence stayed with me. Our friendship grew slowly. We started having lunch together, talking after work, and sharing stories about our lives. Eventually, Michael told me he had feelings for me. "I don't want to rush you," he said, "but I would like us to become more than friends." I like him too, but I was afraid. At the time, I had just ended a painful relationship and I wasn't ready to trust another man. "I need time," I told him. Michael nodded. "I will respect that." For several months, he waited patiently. But then I met David. David was confident, successful, and very clear about what he wanted. Unlike Michael, who was willing to wait, David moved quickly. Within months, he proposed. I accepted. When I told Michael, he smiled, even though I could see the disappointment in his face. "I hope you are happy," he said. I told him I was, but deep inside, something felt unfinished. Still, I walked away. I thought I had chosen the right man. Years later, I would discover that the person I had asked to wait was the one I should never have let go. David and I got married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by our family and friends. Everyone congratulated me. "You are lucky," people told me. David had a good career, a comfortable lifestyle, and a charming personality. From the outside, our marriage looked perfect, but appearances can be deceiving. Within the first year, I began noticing things I had ignored whilst dating him. David was impatient. He wanted everything his way. If I agreed with him, he considered it's disrespectful. Whenever I tried discussing problems, he would say, "You are overthinking things." I kept telling myself every marriage had difficulties. I remembered my mom's advice: "Don't expect perfection from your husband." So I stayed. Then David became increasingly distant. He worked late and rarely wanted to talk about this day, his day. He spent more time on his phone and less time talking to me. One evening, I asked him whether he was happy. He looked at me strangely. "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because I don't feel like we are connected anymore." He sighed. "Emily, marriage isn't supposed to feel exciting every day." Maybe he was right. I tried harder. I cooked his favorite meal. I planned weekend activities. I encouraged him whenever work became stressful. But I felt like I was carrying the emotional weight of the marriage alone. Then I discovered that David had been emotionally involved with someone from his workplace. When I confronted him, He denied it at first. Eventually, he admitted that they were they had been talking for months. I felt betrayed. Our marriage ended not long afterwards. When I moved into our own apartment, I felt both broken and relieved. One evening, while cleaning an old box, I found a photograph of Michael. I stared at it for several minutes. For the first time, I wondered where he was and whether he had ever stopped thinking about me. I searched for Michael online but couldn't find much. I didn't know whether he was still living in the same city. I eventually contacted an old colleague who still had his number. Do you remember Michael? I asked. She laughed. Of course, why? I was just wondering how he was doing. She paused. He moved away several years ago. My heart sank. Do you know where? He took a job in another city. I think he's doing very well. I thanked her. I didn't contact him. I told myself it was better to leave the past alone. Then several months later, I attended a friend's birthday dinner. I wasn't expecting to see him, but when I walked into the restaurant, Michael was standing near the entrance. Our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he smiled. Emily, I laughed nervously. Michael, he looked different, older, more confident, but still familiar. We sat together and talked for hours. I apologized for what had happened years earlier. I should have been honest with you, I said. You were honest, he replied. You weren't ready. I thought I was choosing the right person, he nodded. And now I looked down. Now I know I made a mistake. He didn't criticize me. He simply asked about my life. When I told him my marriage had ended, he didn't celebrate. Instead, he said, I'm sorry you went through that. That was Michael. Still kind, still patient. Before we left, he gave me his number. Call me sometimes. I wanted to, but I was afraid. I'd already hurt him once. What if I hurt him again? For the next weeks, I thought about him constantly. Eventually, I called. We started talking again, but this time I refused to rush. Neither of us knew where the relationship would lead, and perhaps that was exactly what we needed, because sometimes love becomes stronger when two people finally understand the value of time. Michael and I slowly became friends again. We talked almost every evening. He told me about his career, his family, and the lessons he had learned since we last saw each other. I told him about my failed marriage. One evening, I asked him a difficult question. Did you ever hate me? He was quiet. No, not even after I chose someone else. I was hurt, but I never hated you. I started crying. I don't deserve your kindness. He smiled. Maybe you don't have to earn kindness. Our friendship became deeper. But there was something neither of us talked about: love. I was afraid to admit that my feelings for him had returned. Then Michael told me something that surprised me. I have thought about us many times. My heart raced. Us? Yes. What stopped you? You weren't available before. And when you became available, I didn't know whether you wanted me or simply needed someone after your marriage ended. His honesty touched me. I don't want you to be my escape, I said. I don't want to be your escape either. That was when we made a decision. We would take things slowly, no rushing into marriage, no promises we couldn't keep, no pretending the past didn't happen. We started dating again. This time, everything felt different. Michael listened. He respected my opinions. When we disagreed, he didn't try to win. He tried to understand. I realized how much I had mistaken excitement for compatibility in my first marriage. But just as things were becoming beautiful, Michael received a job offer overseas. It was the opportunity he had worked towards for years. I was terrified. Are you going? I asked. I don't know. I smiled sadly. Don't let me be the reason you stay. He looked at me. And don't let fear be the reason you ask me to leave. We had both changed, but now we faced another test: distance. Michael accepted the job. For the first few months, we spoke every day. We had video calls, shared pictures, and planned visits. But eventually, the distance became difficult. His work became demanding. My career also became busier. Sometimes we went several days without having a proper conversation. One evening, I called him after a stressful day. He didn't answer. I tried again. Nothing. The next morning, he called. I'm sorry. You have been distant. I have been overwhelmed. So am I. We argued. For the first time since reconnecting, I wondered whether our relationship could survive. I didn't want another failed relationship. I told him that. Michael, maybe we are forcing something that isn't working. He became silent. Then he said, if you want to leave, I'll respect your decision. That answer hurts. You are not even going to fight for us? I am fighting, but I don't want to force you to stay. I ended the call. For several days, we barely spoke. Then I received a package from him. Inside was a small notebook. For the first page, he had written, I know waiting had been part of our story, but waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means choosing something even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. I cried when I read it. I called him. I don't want to give up, I said. Neither do I. We decided to create a real plan instead of simply hoping things would work. We scheduled visits, we agreed on regular conversations, and we discussed our long-term plans. Most importantly, we stopped assuming love alone would solve everything. Months later, Michael returned for an extended visit. When I saw him at the airport, I realized something. I had spent years searching for certainty, but love wasn't about certainty. It was about two people choosing each other despite life's uncertainties. At this time, I was ready to choose him. When Michael returned, we spent more time together. Our relationship became stronger. Then David contacted me. At first, I didn't respond. He called again. Eventually, I answered. I have changed, he said. I almost laughed. Why are you telling me this? I made mistakes. You did. I want another chance. I felt strangely calm. Years earlier, those words would have confused me. Now they didn't. David, I don't want to go back. You are with Michael, aren't you? Yes. He became quiet. He waited for you. Yes. David laughed bitterly. Don't you think you are choosing him because your marriage failed? I thought about it. No. I realized something important. Michael wasn't my second choice. He was someone I had failed to recognize the first time. David tried several times to contact me afterwards. Eventually, I blocked his number. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it because I finally understand that closing one chapter was necessary before building another. Later that evening, I told Michael about what happened. He didn't become jealous. He simply asked, Are you okay? Yes. Are you sure? I smiled. For the first time, I am. He took my hand. I don't want to marry me because I'm the opposite of David. I won't. Then why? I looked at him. Because with you, I don't have to pretend. He smiled. That night, Michael told me he wanted to marry me. But unlike the first time, there was no pressure, no rushing, no dramatic promises. He simply said, When you are ready, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I realized that the woman who once rushed into marriage has finally learned the importance of taking her time. And perhaps that was why our love has finally found its moment. Michael proposed 6 months later. This time, I didn't immediately answer. I smiled and asked him to sit beside me. Do you remember when you proposed years ago? He laughed. I remember. I said no. You didn't exactly say no. I made you wait. He smiled. You weren't ready. I looked at him. I am now. His eyes filled with tears. Yes, yes. We planned our wedding carefully. There was no pressure to impress anyone. During the ceremony, I thought about the woman I had been years earlier. She had been afraid of missing out. She thought she needed to choose quickly before another opportunity disappeared. Now I understand that love wasn't a competition. The right relationship didn't need to be rushed. After the wedding, life wasn't magically perfect. We disagreed. We had stressful days. There were moments when our expectations were different, but we had learned how to communicate. One evening, Michael asked me something. Do you ever regret not choosing me the first time? I thought about it. Yes and no. He looked curious. I regret hurting you, but if I had chosen you, I might not have understood what I have now. He nodded. Maybe we needed those years. I smiled. Maybe. Our journey has taught us patience. Michael had waited without forcing me. I had learned from my mistakes without allowing them to define me. And together, we had discovered that timing mattered. Sometimes two people can love each other and still need time to become the people they need to be. Our love had arrived late, but it wasn't too late. It has simply taken us longer to recognize what was standing in front of us, and perhaps that made it worth the wait. Today, when people ask me how I met my husband, I tell them that our story began long before our wedding. It began with a missed opportunity, a wrong choice, a painful marriage, a second chance, and finally, two people who were ready at the same time. Michael once told me that waiting for me was difficult. I believed him, but I never made me feel guilty for needing time. That is one of the reasons I love him. He taught me that real love doesn't always demand immediate answers. Sometimes it gives you room to grow. Sometimes it waits, and sometimes it walks away temporarily because forcing someone to choose isn't love. Looking back, I understand why my first marriage failed. I was searching for certainty instead of compatibility. I chose what looked right at the time instead of taking the time to understand what I truly needed. Michael wasn't perfect, neither was I, but we learned how to communicate, forgive, and make decisions together. Our story also taught me that being late doesn't necessarily mean being lost. Some people meet their partners young, others meet them later. Some relationships happen immediately, others take years to become possible. There is no single timeline for love. The important thing is not to settle simply because you're afraid of waiting. And don't return to someone simply because you are afraid of starting all over. Sometimes life removes something from you because something better is waiting, but not always immediately. For me, Michael came into my life early. I wasn't ready. We waited. Life separated us. We both grew. Then when we met again, we were finally ready. He was late. I was late. Our love was late, but it was worth the wait. So, as Roma viewers, I want to hear from you. Do you believe in second chances in love? If you had been in my position, would you have chosen Michael after losing him the first time? Or would you have been afraid of repeating the past? Do you think some people meet at the wrong time but find their way back when they are finally ready? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. And if this story touches your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more important and emotional relationship stories from SROMA. Thank you.